They say the most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest voice or the one who craves attention. It's the one who moves quietly, calm, steady, and always calculating. Now imagine that person being a woman. A woman who doesn't depend on crowds, doesn't need constant company, and doesn't wait for anyone's approval. A woman who chooses her own space, her own thoughts, and her own time. That's not weakness. That's a higher form of strength. Solitude is where true transformation begins. Most people fear being alone because it forces them to face themselves, but a woman who accepts that silence is studying, healing, preparing, sharpening every part of herself until nothing can shake her. By the time she steps out into the world, she's already 10 moves ahead. You can't break her with rumors. You can't trap her with attention. And you can't sway her with other people's opinions. She has built her power in the one place most never dare to enter. Within herself. When you master your own mind, you become untouchable. That is why a woman who spends time in solitude is dangerous, because her silence is not empty. It is strategy, resilience, and hidden power. When a woman chooses her own company, she enters a battlefield many avoid. The battlefield of the mind. It's easy to drown in noise. Surround yourself with people, distract yourself with endless conversations, parties, or shallow relationships. But when she sits with herself, cutting off distractions, that's when the real work begins. That's when she faces her thoughts, her weaknesses, and her strengths. Mastering yourself is not about controlling the outside world. It's about conquering the world inside. That's what makes her dangerous, because most people never attempt that kind of work. Alone time is not emptiness. It's training. It's sharpening her inner blade. It's where she separates what she truly desires from what the world told her to want. It's where she challenges old beliefs, keeps the ones that serve her, and destroys the ones that don't. Silence scares people because you can't run from yourself in silence. But she embraces it. She learns to sit with pain instead of escaping it, to sit with emotions until she understands them instead of drowning them in company or distractions. This is the root of self-mastery. She no longer breaks under storms that crush others because she has already faced storms in her own solitude. Every hour, every day, every week she spends in her own company adds another hidden layer of discipline. She learns to control her impulses, to stop reacting instantly, to move beyond emotions that try to dictate decisions. Most people are driven by fear, anger, insecurity, or the need for approval. But once she has mastered herself, she moves from clarity. Every word she says, every action she takes carries weight, because it comes from inner authority, not outside influence. And think about how dangerous that is in a world that feeds off insecurity. Companies, advertisers, even some relationships are built on making you feel like you're not enough, like you need someone or something to complete you. But she's different. She doesn't need praise. She doesn't need permission. She doesn't need applause. Her worth is built within herself, and that cannot be taken away. That makes her untouchable in ways money, looks, or status never could. This changes how she moves in the world. A woman who has mastered herself never begs for attention. She draws it naturally. People sense when someone is grounded, steady, and centered. It's magnetic. But this magnetism is not about shallow attraction. It's about respect. Men respect her. Women admire her. Even those who envy her can't ignore her presence because she knows herself deeply. Nobody can sell her lies. Nobody can fool her with empty promises. She has already seen through the game in her silence. Self-mastery also gives her patience. And patience is a powerful weapon. In a world where everyone chases instant rewards, she can wait, watch, and move only when the moment is right. She is not afraid of waiting seasons because she knows real growth takes time. That is a power most people never reach. Her solitude has taught her how to be still, to breathe, to watch, and to act with precision. She becomes her own best friend, her own coach, her own protector. And when you no longer need anyone else for validation, that is where real freedom begins. That's when the system, opinions, and fear of loneliness no longer control you. The truth is, most people never feel at ease with themselves. They run from silence, from stillness, from facing their shadow. But she doesn't run, she sits with it until she owns it. That is why self-mastery is the root of her power. That is why she is dangerous. Because she has conquered the one enemy most people never face: themselves. When a woman spends time alone, her vision sharpens in ways others can't imagine. Constant noise and company blur the truth, filling your head with other people's energy, opinions, and voices. But in solitude, her senses heighten. She starts seeing details others ignore. She learns to study body language, tone, consistency, and hidden intentions with sharper focus. Time alone gives her the ability to step back and see the bigger picture, not just the surface. It's like she develops an inner radar, an awareness that cuts through the noise. Observation grows from patience, and patience is a lesson solitude teaches better than anything else. While the crowd reacts, she analyzes. While others are caught in the moment, she watches what lies beneath. She learns to spot patterns in behavior, to notice the difference between words and actions. That awareness protects her from being fooled, manipulated, or caught off guard. She doesn't move based on illusions because she sees through them. And when you see through illusions, you gain a level of control in life that few people ever reach. In her alone time, she replays events, not to drive herself mad, but to learn. She studies her past choices, her mistakes, and her victories. She breaks them down like film review, finding lessons others overlook because they are too distracted. This reflection sharpens her instincts, and sharp instincts become her armor. They stop her from falling into the same traps twice. They allow her to move smarter, not just faster. Her observation also extends to her environment. She notices the energy in a room the moment she walks in. She can tell who truly holds power and who is only pretending. She can feel tension before words are even spoken. That awareness makes her dangerous because it means she can't anticipate moves before they unfold. Most people enter blindly, reacting to what is obvious. But she studies the small details. She's not only listening to words, but also the pauses, the slips, the silence between them. She's not just looking at smiles. She notices the eyes, the body language, the pauses. That ability protects her from being caught off guard and allows her to always stay a few steps ahead. It also sharpens her awareness of herself. She pays attention to her own emotions rising and falling, her own triggers, her own energy shifting depending on who she is around. That self-awareness is priceless. It means she can separate her feelings from reality. It means she knows when she's projecting, when she's being tested, and when she needs to pull back instead of pushing forward. A woman with that kind of awareness doesn't lose herself in situations because she is firmly rooted in her own present. The world moves quickly and people often act without thinking, but she's learned how to slow it down, how to notice the details, how to catch what most people overlook. That doesn't just make her observant, it makes her powerful. Because power isn't always about being the loudest or the toughest. Sometimes power is about being the one who notices what nobody else sees. She carries herself with calm confidence because she knows her awareness is her protection. And people can feel it when they are around her. They can sense that she can't be tricked, that she can't be easily swayed, that she won't fall for the games that work on others. Awareness and observation aren't flashy. They don't always show on the surface, but they are the silent strengths that shape her every move. Alone time gives her the space to polish them, to sharpen them, to practice them until they become second nature. And once that awareness is rooted deep, it changes the way she moves through life. When a woman spends time by herself, strategy becomes natural to her. Being alone gives her the one resource most people waste. Time to think not just about the moment, but to plan her steps 5, 10 moves ahead. The world is full of people reacting, rushing at chances without understanding them, chasing attention without direction. But she isn't rushing. She uses her quiet hours to examine her position, her resources, her strengths, and her weaknesses. She looks at where she stands and where she wants to go, then creates the path that links the two. That's strategy. It's living with intention instead of stumbling through survival. Being strategic doesn't mean she avoids risk. It means she selects her risks carefully. She's not gambling, she's investing. When people see her act, it may appear quick or unexpected, but the truth is she's been preparing that move for months or even years in her solitude. She has already considered the consequences, already weighed the outcomes, already braced for setbacks. That's what makes her dangerous. She's not playing by luck. She's playing with precision. Her time alone lets her zoom out. She's not only thinking about next week or next month. She's thinking of the bigger picture. She studies herself like a project, noticing her patterns, her flaws, her habits, then adjusting them to serve her goals. That type of strategy separates her from people who move blindly, who let emotions run their choices, who repeat the same mistakes again and again. She's not living on impulse because she has already built a map in her mind. The power of strategic thinking is that it makes her unpredictable. People may try to guess her next step, but they'll often be wrong because she's not walking obvious roads. She's moving on a path she designed for herself. Her strategy allows her to move around obstacles others would be trapped in. When something goes wrong, she doesn't fall apart, she adapts. She already created backup plans in her solitude. She already thought of what to do if things didn't turn out as expected. That flexibility is part of what makes her dangerous, because you can't trap someone who has already considered every option. Solitude also gives her time to learn. Strategy requires knowledge, and knowledge requires space away from constant noise. While others are busy distracting themselves, she's reading, studying, observing, and growing. She gathers information and keeps it until the right moment. She understands that every bit of knowledge can be a weapon if you know when to use it. And because she spends so much time alone, she develops the patience to wait for the perfect moment to act. She's not chasing instant wins. She's building lasting success. There is also discipline that comes with this mindset. Strategy isn't only about making plans, it's about following them. Even when temptations or shortcuts appear, when she's by herself, she practices control. She practices saying no to things that don't serve her long-term vision. That discipline becomes habit. So when she steps into the world and distractions appear, she doesn't bend. She remembers the bigger picture she built in her solitude. That is the mindset that builds empires, careers, and legacies. Another part of her strategy is how she manages relationships. She doesn't let just anyone enter her space because she knows that each person is either an asset or a liability. She watches people before letting them close, noticing their consistency, their loyalty, and their intentions. By the time she decides to connect with someone, it's because she has already measured the risk and reward. This makes her bonds purposeful and strong. She's not surrounded by empty noise. She's surrounded by people who align with her vision. Strategic thinking also protects her from desperation. Because she has prepared and planned, she never has to act out of panic. Desperation makes people accept less than they deserve, step into toxic situations, or settle for temporary relief. But she's dangerous because she doesn't need to do that. She has a strategy for growth, survival, and success, and that keeps her steady. She knows when to push forward, when to pause, when to shift, and when to stay still. That rhythm keeps her ahead. This is what makes her solitude so powerful. While others fear being by themselves, she uses it as a training ground, a war room, a place to plan. She doesn't just sit lost in thoughts. She organizes them into action. She knows the world doesn't reward the ones who move the fastest. It rewards the ones who move the smartest. And her strategy is her sharpest weapon, one she shaped in silence when nobody was watching. When a woman spends time alone, she learns to stand on her own emotions without leaning on anyone else for balance. That is where emotional independence grows. Most people are hooked on validation, on attention, on someone telling them they're good enough. They build their happiness on shaky ground, relying on likes, relationships, compliments, or approval. But she doesn't. Time alone forces her to face her feelings directly without comfort, without someone whispering to soften the blow. And by sitting with those emotions, she becomes her own anchor. She learns how to calm herself, how to drive herself. That's what makes her dangerous, because no one can pull her strings through her feelings. When she's alone, she rides through waves. Some days she feels high. Some days she feels low. But instead of running from the lows, she accepts them. She studies the sadness, the frustration, the loneliness until she sees what it is teaching her. She learns that emotions are temporary, that feelings rise and fall like tides, and that wisdom gives her control. She doesn't make permanent choices based on temporary moods. She doesn't allow heartbreak, anger, or disappointment to push her into reckless actions. She holds herself steady until the storm passes. That is the mark of emotional independence. Being able to feel deeply without letting it rule your destiny. She also realizes that happiness isn't something you buy, borrow, or beg for. It's something you create. Alone time teaches her the small practices that keep her spirit alive. Whether it's journaling, meditating, exercising, or just sitting quietly and breathing, those habits become her base. She doesn't wait for someone else to bring her flowers. She grows her own garden. That independence is magnetic because it means she enters relationships from a place of wholeness, not emptiness. She's not searching for someone to complete her. She's already complete. And when you're whole, you can love without clinging, give without losing yourself, and walk away without breaking. Another part of emotional independence is how she deals with conflict. People without it often explode or collapse when problems arise because they don't know how to regulate themselves. But she has trained herself to respond instead of react. She doesn't let someone else's energy drag her into chaos. If someone tries to manipulate her, guilt her, or play with her emotions, she notices it clearly and chooses her response. That control is power. It's why people find her intimidating, because the usual tricks don't work on her. She can't be baited. She can't be guilted. She can't be forced into a role she didn't choose. Her solitude also teaches her to set boundaries. She knows what drains her and what lifts her, so she doesn't allow people to cross lines that disturb her peace. She understands that saying no isn't selfish. It's survival. Emotional independence means she doesn't break under pressure to please others. She doesn't trade her well-being for approval. She values her energy too much to waste it on people who take without giving, or situations that only create chaos. That's why her presence feels so strong, because it's not desperate, it's intentional. The freedom that comes from this independence is priceless. She doesn't need someone to tell her she's beautiful to feel it. She doesn't need someone to promise forever to feel safe. She doesn't need constant reassurance to believe in her own path. That doesn't mean she doesn't enjoy love, connection, or community. It means she doesn't rely on them for her foundation. Her foundation is built within herself. And that's why she can walk away from anything that doesn't serve her. She knows she will be fine on her own because she's proved it to herself again and again in her solitude. This independence also fuels her ambition. When your emotions aren't tied to outside approval, you can take bigger risks. She's not afraid to chase her dreams because failure doesn't define her. She doesn't need applause to confirm her effort. She's driven by purpose, not praise. That's why she keeps going even when nobody's watching, even when nobody's cheering. Her fire is inside. Her confidence is inside. And her peace is inside. That's emotional freedom in its truest form. And because of that, she turns into the kind of woman people look at and wonder how she manages it. They notice her strength, her calmness, her quiet confidence. And they can't figure out where it really comes from. It comes from those endless hours spent alone, those fights carried out in silence, those lessons she mastered in solitude. That's why she's powerful, because she doesn't just make it without emotional supports. She flourishes without them. When a woman spends a lot of time alone, she begins to carry an energy that feels unreachable. That's where mystique is born. And mystique is strength. In a world where everyone is putting their every move online, posting every thought, chasing recognition and approval, she walks a different path. She stays silent. She keeps her distance. She protects her business. That separation builds a glow around her. People grow curious because they can't easily read her. They wonder what's on her mind, what she's preparing, what she understands that they don't. That curiosity itself gives her influence because people always admire what they can't fully touch. Mystique isn't about tricks. It's about control. It's about realizing that not everything should be shared. Not every emotion must be shown. Not every goal needs to be announced. In her alone time, she learns the value of holding her cards close to her chest. She studies herself, her ambitions, her fears, her growth quietly. And when she does step forward, she reveals only what she chooses. That degree of control is real power because it means no one can twist her vulnerability against her. No one can predict all her moves. No one can put her in a box. Mystique also comes from the way she owns her confidence. She doesn't have to boast or shout to prove her value. People feel it as soon as she enters a room. That presence is born in solitude. Being alone teaches her how to validate herself, how to lift her head without outside approval. That calm self-confidence makes people take notice. When she speaks, they pay attention. Not because she's the loudest, but because her words are rare. She doesn't waste them, and people sense the weight behind them. That's mystique turning presence into something stronger than performance. The strength in mystery also lives in unpredictability. Many people are easy to figure out because they wear their feelings openly. They display their struggles. They declare every plan. She doesn't. She's unpredictable because she has taught herself not to reveal everything. One day she might appear calm. The next she's making a bold move no one expected. That unpredictability makes her powerful in the best way. It forces people to respect her boundaries, to hesitate before doubting her. Alone time lets her build layers. She's not one-dimensional. She's not limited to one role or one title. She is always evolving, gathering new wisdom, new skills, new strength, and silence. By the time people think they've figured her out, she's already transformed into a stronger version of herself. That constant growth keeps her beyond reach. It builds a mystique that says, you can't trap me. You can't pin me down. You can't define me. That refusal to be predictable is part of her power. It makes her untouchable. Mystique also comes from restraint. She doesn't answer to everything. She doesn't get pulled into gossip, conflict, or drama. She chooses quiet over noise, patience over impulse, presence over performance. That restraint makes people wonder what she knows, why she won't react like others do. It's not weakness, it's strength dressed as stillness. And that makes people question themselves around her because they realize they can't shake her. That kind of composure is power that can't be imitated. The respect Mystique earns is undeniable. People are drawn to her not just for what she shows, but for what she hides. They feel she knows more than she says, that she's traveled places mentally and emotionally they haven't yet reached. That aura separates her wherever she goes. In relationships, it protects her from being overlooked. In business, it makes her someone people want to work with, but can never manipulate. In life, it builds her reputation as someone who acts with intention and depth. Mystique is magnetic because it leaves a space between what people see and what they wish to know. That gap feeds curiosity, admiration, and even a little fear. And fear, when born out of respect, is a form of influence. Alone time is what creates that mystique. It's where she sharpens her thinking, strengthens her spirit, and decides how much of herself to reveal to the world. And the less the world can fully read her, the more powerful her presence becomes. When a woman lives in solitude, she builds a type of strength that doesn't come from comfort, but from resilience. Silence tests her. It puts her face to face with doubt, with hardship, with stillness. Most people avoid that. They surround themselves with noise so they don't have to feel it. But she doesn't run. She sits with it until she rises from it. That's how determination is shaped. By refusing to let discomfort break her, every hour she spends alone proves to herself that she can handle it, that she doesn't need rescuing, that she doesn't need a crowd to survive. That survival sharpens into resilience, and resilience turns into her weapon. Resilience isn't only about bouncing back after a setback. It's about refusing to collapse in the first place. Being alone teaches her how to handle failures without falling apart. When plans collapse, she adapts. When people leave, she doesn't lose herself. She rebuilds. Each time life tries to push her down, her solitude has already prepared her for the fall. She knows how to sit in her pain, process it, and turn it into drive. That practice creates a determination so deep it looks unbreakable to others. She also realizes that growth is slow, and that's where her determination shines. Many people want quick results. They want success now, love now, peace now. But solitude teaches her patience. She accepts that progress comes step by step, and she's willing to take those steps without losing belief. That patience mixed with persistence makes her dangerous, because she won't give up just because the path is long. She knows how to keep moving, how to keep working, how to keep believing even when nothing shows yet. Being alone also pushes her to take responsibility. There's no one else to blame, no one else to lean on, no one else to distract her from her reflection. She has to face her mistakes, her habits, her flaws. And instead of letting that crush her, she uses it to get stronger. She learns how to correct herself, how to grow from her own struggles, how to motivate herself when no one is clapping. That kind of responsibility builds resilience because she no longer looks for excuses. She builds answers. Determination also comes from the vision she forms in her solitude. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to get lost in their doubts and opinions. But when she's alone, she has space to dream freely. She sets her goals quietly. She imagines her future without distractions, and she locks it deep inside. That vision becomes her anchor. No matter what setbacks come, she has something bigger guiding her. She's not wandering blindly. She's moving with direction. And purpose is what fuels determination when everything else tries to drag you down. Her resilience shows in how she handles pressure. Life always throws challenges. But because she has spent so much time alone, she knows how to breathe through it, how to center herself, how to respond instead of panic. That's what makes her powerful. Pressure doesn't break her. It sharpens her. Every challenge becomes practice. Every hardship becomes evidence. Every fight becomes another stone in her foundation. By the time people see her shine, they have no clue how much darkness she walked through alone to build that light. This resilience also gives her freedom. Once you've learned to rely on your own strength, nobody can trap you with fear.